ahead.
All right, sorry for our tardiness. Let's get this meeting moving. Roll call, please.
Weir,
Here.
Casanello, Pater, Larson,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Okay, this constitutes a full quorum, so I guess we can continue on. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Okay, we'll move on to the invocation. Councilman Morris.
Thank you, sir. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the privilege that we have to gather together, to share our thoughts, and to be led by you. And Lord, we thank you for the privilege that we have as town residents and as a governing body to be able to direct the affairs of this town. Give us wisdom, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Without objection, I would move that we amend the agenda to include agenda item 3B, the appointment of the appointment to fill the town council vacancy.
And where was that on?
3B, sir.
3B, direct, now.
Okay, that's what I thought. There are too many threes on here, though. Okay, I got one council member. I need another.
Second, yes, sir.
Okay.
No objection?
No objections? Okay, we'll amend the agenda. So next item is what we just
Madam
amended to.
Attorney, is there any format that we have to follow to the appointment?
No, sir, you can move forward with the appointment. You have to vote.
Anybody want to give me a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to nominate Mary Ramirez to fill in the vacant seat on the council ending November 2022.
Effective?
Effective immediately, ending November 2022.
Okay.
Are we having the special election? Okay, second.
Okay, got a second. I guess we'll open up with a little bit of discussion. I'd like to let everybody know we did interview Mary in the closed session in the special meeting at 6 o'clock today. From there, we're going to come up with a decision. Anybody want to add any comments?
Has the guidance changed since last week through 2022? Should it be through 2021 for the
It
special
should be
election?
through the special election of
Special
2021,
election.
assuming the writ's been requested, so the term would end November 2nd, 2021, assuming there's an election. What happens if nobody,
Throws in their hat?
well, I guess there's still the option for a write-in, so it would be through November.
22.
Would you amend your motion to November 2nd, 2021?
Why?
2021, yeah.
Because there's a special
Special
election, and we'll
election.
pick it up after November 2nd.
I thought ours ended 22.
Our terms end, but we have to fill.
But we can only appoint until the special election on the 2nd of November.
Yeah, this year.
I had the same question.
So, yeah, so I guess we need a friendly amendment to the motion then, right? You said 2022, did you?
Yes, sir. I stand to amend it to November 2nd, 2021.
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, let's put it up for a vote.
Weir,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we have the clerk of the court here to do swearing in.
Great. Let's do the swearing then.
I solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and to faithfully and impartially,
out the part, abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
Welcome aboard, Mary.
Thank you.
I hope that seat is not too cold for you.
Nope, nice and comfy.
Welcome, Joseph. Here I was thinking we are going to have a short meeting.
He was going to take up your speaking. He was going to fill your time.
Let's get this,
Councilman Passanello just entered the meeting.
Just entered.
okay, for the record. We have Mary Ramirez, Councilwoman Mary Ramirez just stepped up, and Councilman Passanello has just stepped up. Okay, now we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is citizens' time. Do we got any citizens out there who would like to speak?
I'll go ahead and read in this email.
Okay,
We received an email this afternoon from Jim Payne. I apologize for not being able to attend in person tonight, but I need to play chauffeur at a basketball practice. First, I would like to congratulate the council and Sergeant Davis on getting some new officers to backfill those who are no longer with the force. As a councilman said, budgets do speak to intention, but so too do actions. I am sure that the residents and businesses feel safer that the town can now once again provide 24/7 coverage, as that was not possible for a bit due to a lack of officers on the Haymarket PD. Congratulations on getting the DMV Select up and open. I have not gotten a chance to go in and see it myself as of yet. DMV to me is a necessary inconvenience that we all must use at some point or another, but this convenience factor will make it a bit more palatable. I do hope, as any business owner would, that the revenue stream that is to be realized by this venture does come to light before the expected time frame. I would like to thank Councilman Morris for speaking out for the applicant Meladon Group last meeting in terms of getting their SUP all the way up to council, but ultimately being voted down. Yes, there is a lot of time and expense that the applicant has undertaken to re-engineer something that passed muster with staff and with the supporting boards alike. This does not appear fair for the applicant to have to bear, as there should have been a clearer picture by council as to what was going to work or not, as this SUP has been around for quite some time and should not have been a surprise to anyone. I believe that the goal of the council with regards to new and existing business should be to try to work with them to elevate our town. Maybe more work sessions are needed with the applicants, seeing what views the council has on their designated project, as the SUP criteria lends itself to some subjectivity, and it appeared like the findings of the PC were not an accurate barometer as to what was ultimately decided. Fence sitting is a far too expensive gamble that applicants should have to endure. Thank you for listening and have a nice night. Jim Payne, 6680 Fayette Street.
all right. Anybody? Dottie, do you want to speak?
Leonard, 14801 Washington Street. I just want to call to your attention again and again and again that the Planning Commission, even though it has an amazing chairman, is still, in my opinion, malfunctioning for the reason of one person, and I don't have to repeat the name again, but if you're remembering all those letters that were read, 50 or more letters that were read from the people who lived off of Blight Drive, who were concerned that their property values would be hurt by the QBE approval going through. So that did not go through, following many whereas this and whereas that to make him sound like an attorney, and he's not. And when you make a statement preceded by whereas, it should be a fact. But 2/3 of it wasn't. So now he and our planner are discussing things at these planner meetings, and I believe, Marchant, you've been in on some of it. They've tossed your name around a bit, talking about doing a tower or two. That might be something we'd allow. You think that wouldn't hurt property values? Painfully hurt property values. As a realtor for 32 years, I can tell you, I've seen people walk away from houses for months and years because they had a tower near them. And we're a little desperate right now. There aren't as many there aren't as many houses available to some people. But the fact still remains, there's certain things that will make people walk away, and a tower is one of them. So after all that fanatics about hurting property values, why are we talking about a tower in the edge of town? It just doesn't make sense. And I want to bring up again that we would like to see the town finished. I spoke at the last Planning Commission meeting that we needed to be protective of the historic overlay, and he's still talking about killing most of the historic overlay, except on my house. But I brought up again, and if I have to, I will bring every living person who was active in that decision-making. Not all of them are still with us, but a good number of them are. And the reason for that rule that we save as many houses as we could that were 50 years old at the time, after it got up to the new council and the new mayor and the new, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about between us and you, where suddenly it's everything that's 50 years old. So at the last meeting, Planning Commission meeting, he mentioned he didn't think Green Hill Crossing should be in it because he didn't want to have to worry about his house when it was 50 years old being saved. It wasn't about his house. It wasn't built then. He's only been in the town 21 or so years. It wasn't about his house. And after I left the room, I understand from a number of people who saw it that he said that wasn't how it was said, the way I said it. I was on the Historic Commission. I was on the Historic Foundation. I was on the Town Council. And I know everybody else that was. And if they're alive, I'll bring them back. It was meant to be for things that were 50 years old at the time, if possible. And that would include my house, but it isn't possible. And I've already been approved for the demolition on my house, even though I didn't have a lot of help from a couple of you, but it was approved. And it doesn't expire. And I have a letter in writing that says so. So I'm noticing more and more that there's a little shifty stuff going on, including changing maps. My property is shrinking before my eyes, and it has changed colors. I'm a realtor, and I know that when I show properties, if it's commercial in this town, it's going to be yellow. And mine's been yellow for a long time, but all of a sudden, I got a copy of a map from one of the people that someone's going to buy property from, that only got approved a few years ago, it's already yellow and mine has gone back to blue. Do you all really want to go there? Do you really, really want to go there? You should be ashamed of yourselves. If you all aren't watching them, somebody better be. I know God is. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dottie. Anybody else? And that was the only email to be read in. Okay, so we'll move on then to the consent agenda items.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
sir, if it's okay with the rest of council, I'd like to pull the police department's report. I think with the changes that has been taking place with the police department, I think it is prudent upon the police sergeant to give the report verbally and also to inform not just us, the council members, but the town of the changes. And I believe also Sergeant Davis would like to make an introduction.
okay.
I'd also like to pull agenda item 4B2, the town treasurer report, for purposes of discussing new information with respect to ARP funding, budget amendments, and work sessions. And no objection to either of those motions? In that case, I would move the consent agenda sections A 1 through 2, B 1, 3 through 6, and C 1 through 5.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, vote.
Ware,
All right.
Casanella,
Aye.
Schneider,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
First vote.
Excellent.
Okay, so we'll move on then. That opens up the town treasurer report.
Without objection, I'd like the PD to go first.
You want
We can cut
PD to
the
go first?
officers
Okay, I was
loose.
just following the ordinance of the agenda. Okay, police department?
Thank you, since Bob needs some more time to prepare. Sergeant.
For starts, I'd like to introduce Officer Coppage. He's been here for just over a month now, but the last meeting he was unable to attend. Officer Coppage comes from most recently Fauquier County Sheriff's Office. He has 12 years of experience in law enforcement, accident reconstruction, field training officer, tons of experience, and we're very fortunate to have him here. So here he is, and do you have any questions for him?
Please feel free.
Can we? No, I'm kidding.
No?
Welcome.
Anytime, appreciate it.
I understand that Officer Coppage has showed interest in one of the upcoming courses.
Yes, he's showed interest in attending an armorer school so he can service the weapons that we have, which will free up Officer Gregory, who's part-time with us and has a lot of responsibility with his full-time department, being a supervisor as well as the SWAT team. So Officer Coppage stepped up for that, and he's also stepping up to be our evidence custodian. Oh, surprised. But no, he really has stepped up, and we really appreciate him being here.
Did he volunteer to be the evidence officer, or did you just
It was
stick him
kind of
with
like a
that?
voluntold just now, but I
Yeah.
figured if it's on video, he can't get away from it.
Okay. Kind of what I thought.
Try about everywhere we can, so get back to the front speed.
Well, it's appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Word.
And welcome.
Good seeing you. I'm on shift, so I need to get back out there.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Be safe out there.
Will do.
Just finishing up the report, Mr. Mayor, I would like for the police sergeant to go through the report and explain why it's different. In the past, we've had a different type of reporting. The numbers seem to, let me just stop there. So I just wanted the sergeant to spend time going through why the reporting is done this way and how they can be justified. Sarge?
Yes, sir. Normally, what would happen with previous reports would be that all the calls for service would be lumped together. Here, I broke it down into separate groups so that it would be a little bit easier to understand for everyone to be including the residents that are interested in this as well. To start off, just so that you can understand, up until June 12th, we were running, not providing 24/7 coverage. June 12th, that Saturday, was once I was able to fully train Officer Coppage and Officer Chan. They were released to work on their own, and that allowed us to go 24/7 on the 12th of June. Over that time frame, most of these stats reflect from May 15th to June 14th, so only 2 days of 24/7 coverage on these stats. You will see a definite increase come the next month. We were dispatched to 15 calls. Of those 15 calls, 2 of which generated some form of a report. The rest were just where we would advise the citizen of what needed to be done. We were flagged down or contacted by citizens, which generated 1 reportable call and 21 non-reportable calls. Approximately 17 separate calls were also people calling into the station or coming to the station asking for assistance, but they were actually issues in the county. So we referred them to the county police. We have self-initiated calls. Those are calls that the officer acts upon on their own observation. Again, they were broken down into a few separate calls, reportable or non-reportable, foot patrols, and traffic stops. Reportable calls, that was 1. Non-reportable was 93. The officers went on 46 foot patrols in that month time. And we had a couple traffic stops which resulted in 20 warnings. Business checks are another one that I had to break down. Normally, that would just be in one lump sum, and you all would be given a report with almost 2,000 to 2,500 business checks. But I wanted you to make sure that everyone understood what we did. Personal contact business checks, that's where we would go in, speak to the business owners, speak to the customers, see how things were going. In this particular month, we did 78 of those. A physical check, that's when the officers get out, check the windows, check the doors. Usually this happens at night. That resulted in 87 checks in that month period of time. A drive-by, essentially a drive-by is when an officer slowly drives by the business, not at normal speed, but at a slower speed at night, maybe hits the, turns on the spotlight, checks the business as they drive by, looks for the windows and the doors to all be intact, no signs of any type of entry. That resulted in 1,796. Now, mind you, on patrol, we go by the businesses and residents pretty close to probably 100 times a day, if not more. But these are the actual slow and checks. That's what resulted in the 1,796 calls. We backed up the county officers 6 times during that time period. Each resulted in about us being out of town between 10 and 15 minutes. That could be something as simple as an officer just making a traffic stop just outside of town, and we want to make sure they're okay. The only other time we went out of town was for court, so I put that in there as well. And like I said, we've completed the training for Officer Chan and Officer Coppage, which allowed us to go back to 24/7 coverage. These officers, we are hiring tomorrow is the first day for another officer coming in. He'll be working full-time. His name is Donald Finley. And then I have another officer coming in as well for his first day. He'll be part-time. His name is Art Culbertson. So they will both be with me tomorrow for kind of like an orientation. So if you guys are out and about, you'll see me with a few officers, but by all means come and introduce yourselves. With those hires, we are now essentially 4 full-time officers, 3 part-time officers, and myself. We'll have no problem at all providing 24/7 coverage. We've gotten a little creative when it comes to scheduling. For instance, we have a lot of fireworks calls during the 4th of July, so I took it upon myself to come in and work extra with Officer Chan last Sunday, and we drove around and spoke to a lot of people pertaining to fireworks, but it was a good time. All the officers will be working an 8-week cycle, which means they'll work days and nights. I felt this was important so that everyone can meet their officers and know everyone. For instance, Officer Burgoon has been here for about a year and about 4 or 5 months, and there's people coming up to him going, "Oh, you're brand new." No, he's been working nights that entire time, and no one knew him. So we're trying to get out there so everyone gets to know their officers. And then, of course, we had the privilege of getting soaking wet at Longstreet Commons in the water balloon. And I like the term of one of the council members, water balloon battle. It sounds better than fight. But it was a great time had by all. I think my shoes are still wet. Then we also had the bicycle rodeo on the 26th at the Haymarket Baptist lot. We had, I would say, between 12 and 15 children. They came, and it was great because they came in small waves, and we were able to walk them through the courses, and it was a lot of fun. And again, we've got the new computers up and running thanks to Prince William programming them for us, and we're getting ready to start this new year off right. We've got some trainings that we're getting ready to line up, autism awareness, child trafficking, and some other issues as well. Just to make sure you guys are aware, I am hearing the concerns of the citizens pertaining to pedestrian safety and as well as speeding and red lights. So we're going to implement a few different ideas here, one of which will be the bicycle patrol. Actually had Officer Burgoon about 2 weeks ago on bike running, we call it the LiDAR, which is kind of like the laser measuring device that tells you how fast vehicles are moving. We had him down on Blight Drive because we had some complaints about speeders, so he was down there kind of hiding, parked the bike and got out and was using it there. So we're trying different ideas to try to keep everyone safe. So thank you. Is there any questions? Go ahead.
I actually got one note and one question. I appreciate what you guys have done in Green Hill. I'm still getting complaints, as you saw the other night, even with an officer sitting right there at the corner. People are running that one particular stop sign rather consistently. There's been a good bit on social media in the last couple of days about the foxes that are in Green Hill Crossing, and I've actually seen one of the ones, I guess it ranges from Red House all the way down to my house. And while I'm no vet, judging by the condition of the animal, it looks like it's got sarcoptic mange,
Okay.
which makes them a little strange. So if you could contact Animal Control for the county and see if I doubt there's anything they can do, but
I'm not 100% sure, but I think if I can talk to them, maybe we can get them to set out some traps or something to maybe relocate
yeah,
that.
well, in this case, you'd have to treat the animal because the sarcoptic mange leads to some behavioral issues in that.
Okay.
So, I mean, but if my understanding is correct, they are, I guess, the den must be somewhere up by Red House or Rogue Forest or one of the ponds up there, but they are ranging all the way down to St. Paul at the very least.
I spoke to one of the officers. Officer Chan saw one the other night when he was on shift.
Real skinny tail,
Mhm.
no fur, yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to just make a comment. Yeah, it's encouraging to see our officers out there on bikes again and walking. I was out walking with Kathy the other day, and well, a week and a half ago, and I saw Randy out there on one of the hottest days of the year. It was really brutal, but he was out there doing it, walking it, and I just think it's great to see that, talking to folks, and so I'm really, really encouraged by that. I think that's a really good thing to see.
I want to tell you what's encouraging is seeing the officers drive around with their windows down. Because I stopped waving to them for quite a while because I can't tell if they have seen me or not, so I just stopped waving. But it's just so encouraging to see the police officers driving around with their windows down and actually making contact with the citizens. Mr. Mayor, if I may, Sergeant, the computers used for the dispatch system has been, are they still with Prince William?
No, sir, they're back now.
How long did it take for them to be sent off to Prince William and come back to us?
When it took about a 3-day turnaround when I was able to get a hold of the right people to schedule it, a 3 or 4 day turnaround. I had to get them ordered once they came in. I started reaching out to some people within the county, and it took a few minutes to get it to who I needed to. Fortunately, Greg Smith sent me in the right direction, and then the lady that he sent me to was able to recommend me to the person that I needed to reach out to. So the thing about the county system is that when you email them from an outside county source, sometimes it goes straight to their junk. It's like screened. So I had to call the gentleman, but he was very cooperative and helpful.
So all it took was questions that came up from the finance committee that questioned the age of these computers for us to immediately order them, got them in, and within 3 days to get them back. And now we're computers are serviceable and we're not able to be operating without them.
Yes, sir.
Good job. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I also want to make a comment, if I can. I want to give a shout out to Officer Chan on 4th of July. He got out of his car and was kicking the soccer ball and throwing the football and having kids do races around the neighborhood. And he was just so wonderful. And you've done a great job, you know, getting the right officers for our community, and it means a lot. So thank you.
Marshawn, do you have anything?
No, just the Jiffy Lube Live. I'm glad to see that. When do you when do you plan to start anticipating higher
The
crowds?
17th, I believe, is I'm not country music, Luke Bryan?
Brian, yes, Brian.
Luke Bryan concert. I actually was planning to work that day, you know, to help out, and Officer Coppage volunteered to on his weekend off. So I was like, go for it. So we'll have at least 2 officers working that night. And to keep in mind, when I say that, we're not sending an officer to Jiffy Lube. What we're doing is we're staying within town limits and just making sure, because Sheetz tends to be the last stop for people heading to like the Winchester, you know, down 66 to 81 corridor, that area. Sheetz seems to be like the last stop. So we just want to make sure that no one's driving impaired, everyone has designated drivers, and no one's being disorderly. So we just want to have a police presence. I don't want to make you guys think that I'm sending someone to Jiffy Lube to help direct traffic.
No, I didn't. That was my impression. You can tell who's playing at Jiffy Lube by
can.
going to Sheetz on that afternoon. It's a country western concert or a metal concert or something else like that. I'm drawing on a poor memory. Do the town officers conduct sobriety checks from time to time?
We have in the past, and
Okay.
it's something that I can look into at a later date.
Okay.
And I can get back with you.
Okay.
But all of them have been trained through the police academy for field sobriety.
Okay.
So they do know the proper test to administer. So, but to do an actual checkpoint, it would take a little work on my end, but it wouldn't be too hard. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. We already have the operations plans available.
Okay.
So it would be something that I would just have to make sure that we have the overtime necessary to do it.
I would just assume at some point if you saw enough of an issue, I understand that people will cut through 55 to avoid traveling down 66. So I was referring more to the checkpoint, not the I know they can do the sobriety test. I apologize. It was more of the
That's okay.
checkpoints, but I would assume if the need arises, we'll just get you the resources you need to do it. Okay.
We
Thank
do
you.
have those resources in the budget, correct, for this, what do we call it? Selective
Selective
enforcement.
enforcement,
Service.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll have to kick the dust up.
Yeah.
And just one more thing, Mr. Mayor, there's a bike course coming up.
Yes, sir. We have a couple trainings that we've already scheduled. I did mention that Officer Coppage is going to an armorer school for the rifle as well as the pistol that we carry. And then Officer Burgoon, who has been on the, I guess you can say, the bike unit for a while now, few months at least, has expressed a desire to go to a police bicyclist school. And I was able to reach out to our academy that we're a member of and scheduled him to attend a class in October. Because I'm such a great supervisor, I didn't want him biking in the hot summer. I decided to send him in the fall.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Rich.
Any more questions? Thank you, Sergeant Davis.
Mr. Mayor, I pulled the town treasurer's report so that Roberto could update us on the changes that have occurred since the report was drafted with respect to the receipt of the ARP funding. And I don't want to get too involved in this tonight. It's way too early, but just sort of give us an overall kind of 5,000-foot view of what's happened to date. And then at some point in time, we're going to have to do a budget amendment to accommodate the ARP money. And I think we need to set the table for having an ARP-specific work session where that's all we address with respect to what our strategy is going to be, what our goals. We need to start thinking about that now, but I'd like to schedule that work session sometime in the next 6 weeks. And I'll leave it to Roberto because he's better at it than me.
Good morning, Council. As Councilman
Although he doesn't know what time it is.
Ware has stated, good evening, that's right. Long day, sorry. So on June 30th, which was the last day of our fiscal year, the state decided to go ahead and send us those funds. I came into the office and we had $869,439 deposited to our account. This is the first half of the $1,738,878 thousand that we anticipated to receive, which was a little bit more than we originally anticipated. Along with us, many other smaller townships had the same problem, that we got it on the last day. As Councilman Ware had stated, by then we had already adopted the budget. There was no way to do an amendment, so we went ahead and took it as a deferred liability and moved it forward to the new fiscal year. What this means is that with the council's directive, we will need to do a public hearing to amend the budget. And what I would ask to do is if we can amend it for the full $1,007,000 and some change, in order for this, by the second time the second half comes in, we don't have to do another amendment. I had talked to Councilman Ware about this as being the finance liaison, and I believe Councilman Pasanello too, in passing maybe, that I was hoping we could do this as a first quarter amendment, as I know that it will take some time for council to discuss and decide how the funds will be spent. So it just gives us an opportunity to have the money there amended, but yet the opportunity for you guys to still have a discussion as to how the funds will be spent. The same week that we got the funds, I was able to attend our Treasurers Convention conference this year. Many of the discussion there when it came to these funds were about infrastructure. A lot of the towns that are similar to us, Southern Virginia, or a little bit west of us, they seem to do the water and sewer were kind of the main things that they were focusing on with these funds. It's not to say that we need to go that route, but just to give you an idea. So with that report there, that's the only update I wanted to give you on that sense. As Councilman Ware said, I know you guys will probably have to have a work session to discuss how you want to spend it. I believe the town manager may have some more on the report.
So when we are talking about the meeting specifically for ARP funds, I would just ask it probably be advantageous for us to do it after July 16th because the final rule isn't even supposed to be done until then. However, we probably won't have anything realistically until like August 2nd, some clearer guidelines. So I would just say that when council's looking at their calendars, we look after August 2nd to plan that work session specifically for ARP.
Roberto, how much time do you need for the, or when would you like to have the public hearing scheduled, for what month?
October 4th. Oh, in the meantime, though, I do want to give one more update, is that we do plan on opening up a separate account similar to the CARES Act funds, also to show it as a separate income and an expenditure on the budget, so it won't be part of the operational budget, but it would encompass the whole budget. It's similar to what you see currently right now, where the CARES Act money is separate from the operational budget. We plan on doing that as well with this money, and similar to that, we plan to open up a separate account specifically for these funds.
Mr. Mayor?
One more thing, and this will require a federal audit, similar to the CARES Act, that as we're working on right now. Hopefully, we'll be able to close that in the middle of our regular audit. So this will require a separate audit as well.
Is that a yearly audit? Because I assume we have 4 years to spend the ARP money? 3.
So it's required whenever you receive federal funding in excess of $750,000. So since we still have carryover from CARES Act plus the full $1.7 million, that's why we're going to have to do this. To my knowledge, I think it'll just have to be when we expend 750 or more. So for example, if we were to spend 1.5 in this fiscal year, I don't think the following year you would have to, but we're still working out the details, because this, like Roberto said, we just got this in the bank account on the 30th with not a lot of heads up.
Joe?
Sounds like a good problem to have, though. Anyway, yeah, you say that now. A couple of things. So I was looking at the interim final rule, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think public comments are due no later than July 12th, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Right.
July 12th, comments are due, and then they stated that they would try and have that final rule out the 16th. That's where I said realistically, depending on how much, there's just so many questions, as Roberto can attest to,
Right.
just in the conversations of the Treasurers Conference. There's so many
Right.
questions about some of the different
Yeah.
topics. I'm sure it's going to take a little bit for them to be a
It's
little more
going to
detail
take a
oriented.
while for them to sort through that. I mean, if they can do it that fast, that would be great. I mean, I did that for a living in the past life, reading that stuff and negotiating that stuff. And typically, it takes a while for them to get through the comments, rationalize those comments, and go through the whole process. So frankly, Bob and I were talking a little bit about it. I don't expect them to change much in it, but they may expand the opportunities in that, which I'm really hoping they do, because it seems somewhat limited at this time. So anyway, just getting back to the audit issue. So we have to go through the county. The county does the audit on that, no?
No, so it's specific to us, so.
No, I'm talking about the CARES money. I'm talking about the CARES Act.
Yes.
Okay. Who do we have to, weren't we going through a process with the county on the audit?
And we're still working on that. It's just
Okay.
final.
All right, so I just want to
Crossing Ts,
clarify
dotting Is.
that this money, though, we're going to go through a federal audit with whom?
So whenever I'll pull up more information and email it to council, but when you receive a certain amount of federal funding,
I get
it
that.
triggers
Right.
an additional audit, and that is what we'll have to go through because we've received more than 750,000.
I guess my question is, who's our overlord?
It's going to be an independent auditor that we hire, unlike the CARES Act
Okay.
funding. Because the CARES Act funding was proctored by the county.
Right.
And we received it through the auspices of the county. Even though we weren't technically required to have an audit, they audited it anyway as one of their expenditures. But because we're not receiving this from the county, but directly from the state treasury, we're going to have to do it. So, to that end, you did it in a past life. I still do it every morning, read the Federal Register. As dry and boring as that is. I agree. I don't see any scenario after the 12th where they're going to make the spending provisions more. I can't see them narrowing them or constraining them any further. But I have a suspicion that, given the number of comments they're likely to get from localities, groups like VML, that sort of thing, I can see it getting broadened, particularly in view of the, I guess, the struggle going on in Congress now with respect to the you know, what the infrastructure bill and what is and what isn't going to get funded, and I suspect this is a way out. So I can imagine the Treasury Department expanding the provisions somewhat. They're kind of constrained by the language of the legislation, but we'll wait and see. I don't have any hope of seeing that final rule with an effective date until anywhere area. August 31 would be a miracle.
August 31?
Yeah.
Halloween, wow. Okay, so we're kind of talking about strategic stuff, right? Here, if we're talking about how we're going to spend this money, it's strategy, right?
Yeah.
Long-term, and what are the impacts? So to Bob's point about just focusing on ARP, somehow I think we have to meld that with going back and looking at our strategic initiatives. So if we can kind of do both in parallel, so to speak, if possible, I would suggest we do that.
Yeah, but even if we can't do it in parallel just because we don't understand it, we can at least come up with some type of framework for our strategic plan and kind of map what we feel would be appropriate and adjust as we learn more.
I think to that end, without objection, two things. One, I would direct staff to draft a first quarter budget amendment to address the ARP funding and other housekeeping budget items associated with it, and schedule a public hearing for October 4th, 2021. And then if this works for everybody's schedule, sort of a high-level strategic work session confined to ARP and the strategic plan goals. Looks like the next open date we've got that would work is Monday, August 9th.
Do you think we can do it in the nighttime, or do you think it might be best to have it in an afternoon in which it could drag out?
No, I don't, you know, we're somewhat constrained by the relatively small number of overall subjects that we can fund with the money. So it's simply a matter of finding projects that fit within that. I think we could probably do it. I mean, if we're just going to take an initial 5,000-foot view and kind of figure out our strategy and kind of start targeting funds, I think we could probably do it in an evening meeting.
A follow-up question to that. While you're talking.
I'm just looking at the calendar, seeing.
Chris, do you think Katie will be able to have the numbers available for our work session at the end of the month? And the July work session for the August meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have those numbers. I've just got several questions about some of the things
That's
that she
fine.
put in so I can better explain it to you guys.
And I had talking with Chris about before, so we are anticipating that we would start talking about those known quantities ahead of time and then backstop that with the, what?
I thought you were going to be Rumsfeldian. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, no. And then maybe reaffirm that with the 9th discussion, if that's okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so does it look like everyone's free on the 9th? That means we'll have back-to-back meetings 3 weeks in a row.
No,
August,
August 2nd, 9, and 23rd. Up 30.
July 26th, August 2nd, August 9th.
Yeah. We could do the 23rd if that works better. Gives us a little more time. Because the planning commission's the 16th, right? I'm sorry, there's five Mondays in August. So, I mean, if you want to do it on the 23rd, we're still going to end up with 3 in a row.
yeah, no matter
So,
what, we will.
box mix, I mean,
Just heads up.
I mean, 9th, 23rd makes no difference to me. Does anybody have any preference?
What time?
7.
If I could ask for the 23rd, it would work best for
There
my
you go.
family.
It would work best
23rd?
for me too, because I'm out the 6th to the 20th.
23rd works fine for me.
Okay, thank you.
just came on Combsville and get in
I know.
Thank you, Roberta.
23rd.
23rd, 7 p.m.
You got that down, Kim?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
As long as we're talking about,
Can I follow up to that one then? So since we're reversing the order for the work session where we're going to talk about the numbers provided by Katie, do we want to at least have those available to us on the 23rd? That makes sense what I'm
should
asking?
have them at the end of this
We-
month.
Yeah, we should have them.
Because
Talking about August 23rd?
That'll even give you a chance for quotes
Yeah,
for
we're
real
gonna have
pricing, right?
those
Not
July 26th.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll
The
have
idea
those
was
on
to
July
have-
26th, so we'll have a whole month to
crunch them.
crunch them, look
Okay,
at them.
August 23rd?
August 23rd will be
Okay,
the
I thought you were
ARP.
saying July 23rd. My bad. I apologize.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not.
Usually it's not. Usually when you say
Since
that.
when
it's
has that
not.
ever, since when has that ever stopped me? As long as we're talking about meetings, sort of hand in hand with this, we're having a meeting on July 12th with county staff, transportation, and public works. Perhaps the town attorney can elaborate on this. There is the likelihood that more than two of us would like to be at that discussion with county staff. And I don't mind opening it up to the public, but do we need to schedule it as a meeting or simply a gathering, or
And what timeframes do we need?
not that any, because there'll be no votes happening, but there will be a discussion of what's happening.
Or if you have more than two, then yes, I think you are going to have
Have it and call it to order, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But I know I want to sit on it, I know you want to sit on it, I had, yeah. So do we just go ahead and advertise it as a public meeting?
Is a week
This
notice
is an
good enough?
electronic meeting as well.
That's fine,
Okay, I just, so you guys know, this is an electronic meeting.
that's fine. But we still have to notice it if more than two of us are going to be there.
Understood,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody knew that this wasn't an in-person meeting.
Okay, so yeah, if you'll just, without objection, if we can just notice that meeting so that more than two of us can participate, because I know there's a lot of us that have questions for county staff, and that way we can all deal with it and throw open a Zoom link, I guess, to the public who wants to.
I will touch base with Prince William County because they're the ones who schedule the meeting, so.
Okay, cool.
That's right. Rely on their hardware. It's a little bit better than ours.
Sorry for that.
No, that's good.
It just occurred to me, and I don't want us to be hamstrung at that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for treasurer? Left side here's been quiet, so I thought I'd give you guys a chance.
I split them up, that's why.
There you go.
Do you have any time left, sir? Two on the far end took all the time.
Okay. So we'll move on then. Next agenda item is the take-home policy. I open that up for discussion.
Who's got them all?
Mr. Mayor, as coming out of work session, we got some good feedback from council members who were present concerning the pros and cons for the vehicle take-home policy. And it is still my intention to push forward for the full vehicle take-home policy for the police department. But I do believe that we are in need of more hard facts. Hard facts that can be calculated and be more precise if we were to have a trial period for the hybrid plan.
Yeah, I would prefer to have the hybrid plan up front. I'd like to get something out tonight, and something where we at least can gather data and figure out whether this should be extended to a full plan.
Because I know that you did a report and you sent it out, Mr. Mayor, but that report is still inconclusive. And there were guesstimates to it, and I appreciate you doing it, but I still think there is that meat of the report that's lacking that we can get over the next few months.
Yep. I got some question here on the dais. I opened up discussion. Did I need to open it up with a motion first, or?
You know what, I wasn't paying attention on the issue. What was the motion or the discussion was on?
Vehicle take-home.
The take-home agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just opened up
Does it
discussion.
require a motion, or we could simply do it by directive to adopt the policy?
I think you can just do it by directive.
I'd entertain a directive without objection.
Yep, I would agree with that.
It's his baby.
Yes,
Is
Mr.
some
Mayor.
further discussion on it? or-
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I just want to get,
Please.
I just want to get it on the table.
Were you here? No.
I just want to get it on the
Marchand's
table.
waiting patiently for his turn, guys.
So it's on the table for discussion, Marchand.
Thank you. As I understood the evolution of this when we first took office was to understand more of the intricacies of the budget items that supported the take-home policy or did not, and we wanted at least some additional explanation and some support for what the reasonable costs were, expenses were, and how that might affect our budget and our revenues. We went through the budget exercise. I understood when I had asked specific questions about the budget, Roberto, if you can remind me, was that we had budgeted the full take-home policy or some variance between the hybrid and the full policy?
So the way the budget was created and adopted, it was still the similar budget line item as a full take-home in the prior 2 years.
Okay. Okay, so we did have, that was my understanding as well. We have funded it at the higher rate, and we've adopted that budget. We understand the revenues. We're getting a better understanding of the cost involved with that. And so I feel like for the delay that I had personally had in this decision, I feel like that information, so I'm of the opinion that that information has come to light. We do have the transparency on how that decision is coming about, and I'm ready to support the full policy, but I do believe, or I will support Councilmember Morris's suggestion of the hybrid plan until we can be able to get some real numbers in. Last thing, Sergeant Davis, have you gotten a sense from, not to put you on the spot, is there any feedback or any other commentary that you have on the implementation of such a policy, or?
Either way you look at it, pertaining to either the full take-home or the partial take-home, either way, it will benefit the officers, and I think they would greatly appreciate that. I leave it to all your hands as to what you would like to move forward with. If you want to move forward with the hybrid program and allow me 6 months to kind of track the data to see where we're at pertaining to where we're at with the budget expenses pertaining to this, and then if that would make you all feel better to know that we can afford it in the budget the way it already is as it stands, then I would greatly do that with no problem at all. Keep you all up to date to that.
Okay, thank you for that. Overall, too, I do believe we've made significant strides in terms of supporting the COLA amounts, raising pay, and I do believe sort of the trifecta of trying to retain and recruit the best. I do believe this is the third tier, and that it does deserve our support. So I will be supporting the hybrid plan and look forward to seeing the data in 6 months.
Bob, I see you with your hand.
To that end, Chris, I mean, it's your directive. Would you entertain a friendly amendment to come back and review this in 6 months after we've got 6 months of data? We've already got 8 months of data. Come back in 6 months and review whether or not we need to expand it to a full take-home in 6 months. And I think we need to do it for 6 months because the fuel costs are roughly $1 a gallon more than they were this time last year, give or take. Roughly, plus our beloved governor hit us with an additional 5 cents a gallon gas tax effective July 1, which is going to increase our incremental operating costs. So, I mean, maybe not 6 months. Yeah, why don't we come back at the end of December, look at the data from now until the December meeting, and then make a decision as to whether to maintain the hybrid or expand it to a full take-home policy?
Mr. Weir, thank you for that. My only concern, and probably a question to the sergeant and also the rest of the council, is do we need 6 months? Is 3 months good enough to collect the data and to be able to sufficiently put forward to council? Now, bear in mind, if I can just go back a few months, this is all information that we've been requesting for quite a while, and we haven't been able to get it. And now we're in a position where we've gotten a lot of the information from the sergeant. Greg Smith was instrumental with it.
And should council move forward with it, would it be okay to do the evaluation in 3 months? And I'll be okay if council thinks 3 months is not enough to then extend it by 3 more months.
I could live with coming back in October because your highest gasoline prices are generally in the summer section. So if anything, the October, November, December, the October and November numbers might actually decrease the average cost. So if you want to come back first meeting of October and amend your directive to limiting it to October, what is that?
First week in October, to the
First week of
meeting, first
October,
work
I'd be fine
session.
with that.
Would that be, Ms. Kim, would that be the work session in October or the work session in September?
Discussion at the work session in September, action on the meeting of October.
I would have no problems amending the directive, sir, effective immediately for, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So for us to get the accurate information, you have to have time for the sheets bills to come in. So they are a month to a month and a half behind. So November, December is probably the earliest we would be able to get that for a 3-4 month.
Move it to November?
So we'll stick to 3 months, but instead of a September work session, it would be an October work session to vote on it in November.
We should be able to have, and if we don't have all of it, we should have the previous information. So we'll have it for the October meeting.
So, Mr. Mayor, sorry, go ahead, sir.
So we will have to make an adjustment, or you'll have to adopt the specific general order reflecting the hybrid over the next 3 to 4 months, correct?
Yes, sir, and we do have a draft of that. Sergeant Davis?
But that's done administratively by the acting
Yes, yeah.
chief, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, sorry, yeah. I mean,
So
But
that'll
so-
be in effect, and then that'll be subject to change depending on our discussion in November.
Yes, sir.
Or December, November. November.
Would it require a resolution?
No.
I don't think so.
So without further discussions, Mr. Mayor, I would.
One more point. If we are going to go to an unlimited policy, which is what this contemplates in 5 to 6 months, we're going to have, I think, at least from my perspective, we're going to have a discussion about a limitation on a radius from the town of Haymarket, because I don't see something being 60 to 100 miles as being an appropriate use.
Or 238.
Or 238, or anything. So I think we need to kind of nail that down, and we should be thinking about that going forward.
Yes, sir. And just to add to that information, from the study that we just completed, right now the furthest distance is 53. 53.
53 is for the
furthest
static
distance.
right now,
For the current staff.
For the current staff.
That's a static right now.
53
That's
air
where it
miles,
is today.
correct?
Yes, sir. 53, no, not
53
air
road miles?
Yes, sir.
Even better.
Yeah, that is better. All right, something to contemplate.
I just wanted to comment on, to make sure that I'm of the same understanding that this resolution or this proposal is with the intention of eventually going to full take-home policy. And I was a bit confused by Councilman Weir's comment about collecting data the last 8 months, simply because COVID and everything has sort of deducted the amount of interaction the officers have done and the car usage and things. And so I'm just want to make sure that we kind of go into this with the proper mentality that we're looking at it for what it is. We're not comparing it to data that isn't comparable, because the officers were not as active as they are now.
So if I can just answer that, a huge part of the reason we don't have the data is because in September last year, the take-home policy was suspended. So we did, from June to September, we did not have sufficient data that was there that we could pull on, even though it was requested by some council members. Since then, we haven't really had the information that we're in need of in order to move forward and to weigh the two options. Mostly it has been a guess as far as the vehicle usage. One of the things that came out in the last 2 weeks in discussion is, and there's one vehicle in particular that we're looking at, is just driving it around town and parking it here was giving us 5 miles to gallon. And ever since the sergeant started taking home his vehicles on weekend, it jumped up. That same vehicle jumped up to 18.
Right.
So the officers have been instructed over the last 2 weeks to, near the end of their shift, to take it out on 66 and just drive
Inactivity
it.
isn't good for vehicles.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I know, and that's why the data that we need, we cannot just look at the mileage, we cannot just look at wear and tear, we cannot just look on the changing of oil. We have to look at an area of time that we can really collate all the information and say, this is what it would cost the town in a hybrid plan, and that hybrid plan would give us a better understanding of what the full take-home policy. It is still my intention within the next few months to still propose, and if council so desires and votes on it, it's to go with a full take-home vehicle policy.
Okay. Thank you.
But I do understand that in order to get that information, to properly collate it, and to present it for the rest of the council to vote on, it means starting out with the hybrid plan is a good option.
Let me answer your question from my perspective.
Sure.
I don't think it's a given that there's a full take-home policy. I think we have to
Right.
go
No,
through the process.
his proposal was with
No,
the
no.
intention. Correct. Okay.
And I think we need to go through the process. I think the incremental approach right now gets us to where we need to be for our new officers,
Yeah.
right? I think it's really an issue of esprit de corps and morale to a certain extent. To a certain extent. And leadership. But for me, I'd like to see the numbers. I think 3 months, I would have some issue that there's some variability in those numbers, whereas 6 months might be a little bit better, but I can live with the 4-month period, and then we'll see where we're at. But I don't necessarily agree that it's a given that that's where we're going to migrate to, because we have to be aware also, it's a matter of cost. There are trade-offs for that cost. And, at any time, the way the policy is written in the general orders, it's a, I don't like to say the word benefit, but it's an opportunity that can at any time be rescinded. So the officers do understand that this is something that may or may not, depending on how our budget goes. So we have to be cognizant of that as well. We've been very fortunate that the budget has been strong enough
Right.
that we're able to do this if we so desire as a council.
Speaking of budget, I am trying to get caught up on everything, and I was made aware by our finance. What's your official title? Treasurer, I apologize. By our treasurer that we have quite a substantial, I don't know, like surplus this year. And I inquired about the past couple of years, and it's been consistently like about 100,000 plus, or about 200,000 surplus this year. And I'm really excited to see what the hybrid option will show financially. And I think that will show how such a small percentage of that surplus could be devoted to something that's so essential to our community and uniting the neighborhoods and the businesses all into one, because this is such a unique perk, and I'm really excited that, we're going to work towards supporting our officers that way.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'll push back just a little bit because we do have competing priorities as well.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of investments that we're going to be talking about in our strategic discussions
Yeah, absolutely.
going forward that have to be funded. So, it's a balancing act, and you'll get to know the budget a lot better over the next month or two, and then you'll recognize that we have to make some investments because there's been a disinvestment in this town from an asset standpoint.
Well, I'm really excited for us to set priorities for sure, and for us to vocalize that and work through that.
To that point, which may explain prior years' surpluses with air quotes. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter tonight.
Okay, so I guess we're going forward with the directive of
There's no objection, yeah, I'm just,
no objection.
Yeah, Mr.
On
Mayor,
hybrid.
if there's no objection, I would like for the council to direct the town sergeant to proceed with the hybrid plan as discussed, if effective immediately. We will gather all the details for October work session, discussion on the accumulated costs for the hybrid plan, and agenda item in the November council session.
Any objection? So directed. Okay, I guess we got the resolution 2021-012 sidewalk grant.
This is taken from VDOT's website and has been edited for the town project.
Thank you.
want to read it?
This is the 80/20, right?
Yes.
Correct, so our portion would be
Mayor.
$162,500 with the requested amount of $650, so the total project would be $812,500. And this is specifically for the park sidewalk from Haymarket Baptist to Blight Drive.
And that could be used in addition to any funds for stormwater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So we did ask if we were to do the engineering and design beforehand, before the estimated fiscal year. As you can see, it'll be next fiscal year is the earliest that we'd be able to get the funds. And they indicated that there is a chance that that would not count towards our reimbursable amount. So if we were to use the ARP funds, just know it may not be to the $162,500 portion that the town is going to owe for this project.
So,
Any comments,
I have, all right,
Joe?
it's been a long day. So this is an application for an allocation of town funds of up to $162,500, is that correct?
Correct. So what they ask is they ask that we indicate that our portion, which would be the 20%, would go towards the project.
Should we say that in here, which reflects our 20% contribution?
So this,
That's a good point.
It does say.
this is what I pulled from the VDOT website for the local resolution.
I would support that we need to put 20% in it because,
Well, we can't get it without it, so.
well, it's just that 162,500 should represent something of substance, and that substance is 20%. That means we're expecting, so if they come back to say, hey, I realize.
This is their form, their form resolution that they ask localities to complete.
So I guess what Joe's
So, I mean,
asking-
we can go in addition to what they asked, that's just what I provided is specifically what they asked for.
I think what you're getting at is, although it mentions the 162.5,
Right.
it doesn't mention what we're getting from the state in terms of their share of the nut.
What we're applying for.
Yeah.
And I would ask for a point of information from our parliamentarian lawyer. What are your recommendations?
I think you should say exactly what you want. I mean, this is VDOT's recommendation, but I think we spell out what the town's approving. If that's the council's direction that they go in, if you're saying it's 20% of the total cost and you're allocating 162.
What if they come back to say, yeah, we'll match your 162? No. It's written in the resolution that 162 was 20%.
The application we filed was for $650,000 with the 162. Like I said, I will absolutely amend this however you guys want, and I have a contact at VDOT that I can send to them and ask if the updated resolution.
Are we under a time crunch on this?
We have to get it done by the 30th, so as long as you guys are okay with giving me a directive by the July work session, I can send it.
Would it be better if we had it done tonight?
I would prefer if it's done tonight. I don't foresee anything holding this up.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to change up the agenda a little bit and do council member time, Joe and I can work with the town manager and make some changes to this motion on the fly.
What are you looking at doing? Moving this?
Moving
to-
council member time so you guys can get that over with, because this shouldn't take but a minute or two. Or take a
Okay,
recess.
let's just
Yes.
take a recess.
Please.
Okay.
Just insert 10%.
The name of the, so we need to add. Mr. Mayor, I would move Resolution 2021-012, whereas the Haymarket Town Council desires to submit an application for participation in the VDOT TA program for funding by the Commonwealth in the amount of $650,000 with a 20% match by the town in the amount of $162,500, and whereas these funds are requested to fund a sidewalk project in front of the town park between Haymarket Baptist Church and the intersection of Washington Street and Blight Drive, and whereas the Haymarket Town Council hereby supports this application through the Virginia Department of Transportation fiscal year 2023 through 24 revenue sharing program, and whereas the Haymarket Town Council acknowledges its responsibility for maintenance of the improvements upon completion, now therefore be it resolved that the council of the town of Haymarket hereby commits to fund its local share of preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction as applicable of the projects under agreement with the Virginia Department of Transportation in accordance with the project financial documents. Be it further resolved that the town manager is authorized to execute all agreements and/or addendums for any approved projects within the Virginia Department of Transportation. Adopted this 6th day of July, 2021.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion second. Do we got to vote on a resolution? Okay.
Weir,
Aye.
Pasanello,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Morris.
Yes.
And hopefully somebody can read my chicken scratch.
I guess just to try and close out everything before we go into closed session, I'd like to do another agenda amendment and move council member time in front. Do I have any objections?
It is.
It is in front of.
Oh,
Okay.
hearing.
Retract your statement.
Dang, I retract my statement. I must be on your wavelength, Joe. I need sleep too, I guess.
We'll add Mary to the.
Yeah, but we will be adding Mary to the list.
She should go first.
That's right. Throw you right into the fire, right?
I'm happy to go first. That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Feel free to.
Thank you everyone for the warm welcome and allowing me to catch up and participate right off the bat. That's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to serving our community and doing the best for this town that we can. And I also want to thank the police department for the events and participating and everything. I already gave Officer Chan a shout out, but Sergeant Davis, thank you for the bike rodeo. My daughter really, really had a great time. And that's it from me, guys.
Okay, Bob?
All right. I have had to say this several times, and I want to make this very, very, very clear. I'm not quite sure where the impression came that the Planning Commission is considering additional towers in the town. There has been no discussion of expanding the zoning to allow any more towers in the town other than what is already existing on the Century Stair property. As many of you know, I've fought very hard for quite a number of years at considerable expense of time and money against power towers, and to suggest that I'm in favor of any more towers in town of any manner is just somebody wasn't paying attention. Similarly, I am not aware of any discussion by the Planning Commission at any point to make any changes in the current zoning or long-range land use map impacting any particular properties. No colors have changed to my knowledge. And then last but not least, there is a common misconception with respect to the 50-year status of the historic district. And I have said this before. While I agree with Ms. Leonard in the concept and what perhaps the intent was at the time that the historic district ordinance was drafted, the devil is in the details, and as I have maintained for nearly 20 years, the language does not comport with what the suggested intent was. So let me read this into the record so that everybody is clear. Section 5814.4A. In order to promote the general welfare through the preservation and protection of historic places and areas of historic interests, all buildings within the old and historic town of Haymarket, which are 50 years old or older, are designated historic buildings. No historic building may be demolished in whole or in part, nor may any architectural features of such buildings which are subject to public view from a public street be altered without prior application to the Architectural Review Board, unless the building official, consistent with the Uniform Statewide Building Code, determines that it constitutes such a hazard that it shall be raised, demolished, or moved. We note that is 50 years old or older from whenever you're reading this ordinance. I'm assuming that that needs to be corrected, and that's what the Planning Commission is looking at. So, to my view, this changes every time the calendar year changes. So 50 years ago today would have been 1971.
That was how I had interpreted it before as well.
So I just want to be clear. Regardless what the intent was when the ordinance was drafted, it wasn't drafted in a manner that reflects that particular intent. I agree with that particular intent, and the Planning Commission is in the process of trying to go back and rework the language to reflect that intent. And that's all I have.
Okay, Joe?
Mr. Mayor, if I may offer our town planner an opportunity to respond to the color map, if that's appropriate.
It's your time.
And then I have a comment to make.
So after that comment was made, I did look up our two current maps that are on our website to see if there was something that maybe could have been misconstrued. Our planned land use map that is in our comprehensive plan does have the property that was in question tonight labeled as the blue property. And so that is, again, our planned land use map out of our comp plan. The current zoning map has not changed. The property is still in the B1 district. It is still the brownish yellow color. And again, that's our current land use map. Both are on our town website.
So there have been no changes in either map.
There have been no changes in either map, and I would go as far as to say we need to update our maps so that Dogs Stay Out and the three properties on Washington Street that were rezoned in 2017 and 2018 need to be properly accounted for on our current land use map.
Okay, thank you, town
Thank you.
planner. Mr. Mayor, and I just want to say, nice to see you, Ms. Spittler. Yeah, great. You could make it. We've got the A-team here this evening. Make sure you tell Martin. Make sure you tell Martin, okay. I just want to say welcome to Mary. I think this has been a very good choice. I think we're going to have a lot of debate, and I look forward to it. So welcome.
Thank you.
And it'll be fun. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Marshawn?
God bless you. You're welcome. Thank you.
That was a good comment. Now we'll move on to...
Thank you for your brevity, Mr. Schneider.
Just to reiterate the earlier points, you cannot rezone property without proper notice and hearing, regardless of a map color. And the interpretation was how it was interpreted before. That was 50 years from the date of the ordinance. And I look forward to that discussion when the amendments come forward. Affirm what all the others have said in terms of supporting the police department and having Mary on board. Although I know you as Mary Antonia.
Yes, that's my middle name.
Okay. So, learn something new tonight.
Don't try and confuse us, Marcia.
Confusion. But anyway, looking forward to the strategic planning session later this month, and would hope going into the fall that we can solidify that. We're over a year into our tenure. We've accomplished a lot considering what we've had to deal with, but it would be nice to be able to start putting some major decisions on the books. So, thank you.
Councilmember Morris?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You have the stopwatch on him?
My only comment this evening really goes out to our acting chief, Sergeant Davis. Our town's police department has survived a tough 6 months, and they've weathered it, and most of the weathering is because of your leadership. I just want to thank you for stepping into that role. You took it, and you commanded and took on that role and owned it. I just want to thank you personally. I know the rest of the council members are behind me in saying thank you for stepping into those shoes and leading the police department in a time when we really needed leadership. You've brought on some really good officers, and already they're making an impact in the community. So with you, our town manager, and Greg Smith, you guys have done a wonderful job in how you have reorganized, reshaped, corrected things that need to be corrected. And I look forward to continuing to serve alongside you guys as you continue to develop the department. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and my turn. I'd like to parrot a lot of what Councilmember Morris says. I'd like to welcome Mary aboard. Continue on with Councilmember Morris. So I would like to parrot the exact same things, and I'd like to let people understand and recognize that I was probably one of the biggest downfalls for the morale, but there were reasonings behind it. I think you've improved things a lot with the increased communication channels that we have open now. Before, these were all shut. There was very little communication. So I really appreciate the effort that you've been putting out there. And because of these communications, there's a better understanding, and that's exactly what I need to know is what I need for you to get your job done, what I need to fund for you, what I need to set policies for, and everything else. And I hope this goes forward just for an operation improvement and everything else. On that note, I did take the 4th as a holiday, so this weekend was kind of screwed up when it comes to me being around for the farmers market as being available as a mayor for people to walk up and say hi. So I will be at this Saturday's or Sunday's farmers market, and I will be doing my Saturday walk as well.
Did you get the money, sir?
Money?
Yeah, the money I sent you.
She had some commitment she couldn't get out of.
Why are you laughing?
Because I supported what you said? Or?
No, you guys I sent you money. Did you get it? Did someone tell him that he was hacked and begging me for money?
Oh, that. I wasn't hacked, I was spoofed. I did look into my account and my logins, and the only logins that were happening were from my address. So obviously they found our our email addresses.
All they did is, this is common, they changed the title of the email so that it comes across as Ken Lerson, and then they just sign off as mayor. But if you actually look at the email address, it was not from mayor's email, so that he was not hacked, and that's not an issue. It's just a phishing scam where they try and act like the mayor. And
I want to know how I get my money back. That's all I'm interested in.
You didn't get those iTunes cards? See, I didn't get it, so I couldn't see the header, but I assumed that I was spoofed. I wasn't hacked, but like I said, I went back and checked my login.
There's all town emails, I believe, got that email.
We're there
So-
for you.
Okay, well, let's move on. I'm dragging this out, so.
And don't forget to mention about the DMV Select that opened on July
Oh,
1.
yeah, I did have that down here, and I did not mention it. Kim, Chris, both of you were strong advocates of the DMV Select. With the opening as successful as it was, I congratulate you guys.
Thank you. And just for any residents out there watching, if you're interested in making an appointment, it is available on the town website in the upper right-hand corner. You can book DMV Select appointment now, or at the front of Town Hall, we've got a QR code, so any smartphone, you can now just point your camera at it, and it'll take you directly to the appointment page. We are working with some Vistaprint to do some business cards to give out to Manassas as well as Warrenton, so that this way anybody that can't get an appointment, so for example, some appointments for vehicle titling can't be scheduled until August, and we've got some available within 14 days. So people can get in a couple months earlier. So hopefully we can help town residents, but we have had quite a bit of people from all over coming and making those appointments.
And I'm assuming we're going to be opening up a Dropbox, or is that already open? For
That's
use?
already open.
Okay,
Yes.
so we can mention that too, that there is a Dropbox.
We just ask that we will be getting pre-filled out envelopes, but until then, if everybody can just provide their first and last name, a phone number, as well as an email for contacts. This way, if something does not get filled out, we can make sure we contact them and let them know.
And where is the Dropbox located?
It's located in the PD lobby. It's on the left wall, and it drops directly into my office. It's a secure drop box so that I check it every morning.
Okay, did I miss anything, Kim? Okay, so let's move on then. Bob?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that council release Sergeant Davis so that he can attend to other duties.
What was that?
Release Sergeant Davis from the meeting.
Yes.
And allow the remaining staff to participate in closed session as needed.
Yes.
All right. In that case, bear with me because this is going to be a long one. I move that the council convene in closed session to discuss the following, as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1, a personnel matter involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the town, specifically dealing with the police department. As permitted in Virginia Code Section 2.23711A3, a matter involving acquisition of real property for public purposes, specifically involving property within the town limits, because discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the town's bargaining position, and as permitted by Virginia Code subsection 2.23711A6, for the discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affected, and as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to the proffers of 14600 Washington Street. There, that's it. That's it.
So moved.
Okay. I guess we can close. Is there a vote?
There's
No
gonna be-
votes required. Let's close it then.
No, just a general motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's close and move into closed session. Okay, let's get back in session. We would like to, for the record, state that Vice Mayor Pater came in for the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, I would move the council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed in a closed session under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as cited in that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second roll call vote, please.
Weir.
Aye.
Passanello.
Aye.
Pater.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Move to, Mr. Mayor. Without objection, I would direct the the town attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session.
No objection, sir.
No objections? Okay. As directed.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's close up.
Wasn't even on my list.
This with a consent agenda.
Well, I told you, Flip.